I think it's our obligation to have our kids see people that are successful, have our kids see people that are positive. This episode is sponsored by Southern Utah Safe and Vault. It's one-stop shop, buy, education, delivery, everything you need with the safe or a vault door. Website is safesfirst.com. Their showroom is 1397 West, Sunset Boulevard, number 115 in St. George, Utah. Phone number is 435-767-7878. Hey guys, welcome back to the Derick Legg podcast. We are in the vault again, episode 61. We're here with me alone again, so we're going to start doing this probably once a month. We'll see how the guest lineup goes and how the schedule goes, but I kind of want to do this one because when we started the podcast, it was something that scared me, and I'm trying to get out of my comfort zone. That was just over a year ago. And the podcast definitely did that, got me out of my comfort zone, and I've grown a lot. My network has grown a lot, and I've really enjoyed doing it. And we get a lot of good feedback, which, kind of keeps me going with it. So I appreciate everyone that's reached out over the last year. We're just over a year now. So appreciate you guys. Appreciate everyone listening and being here. So what we're going to do when it's just me, I write down thoughts. I maybe other people do this. Maybe I'm just weird, but kind of my day job is I run a retail store. I own a retail store where we sell gun safes, vault doors, and we do custom gun holsters. For those of you that don't know, I think most of you guys have picked that up by now. But while I'm there and I'll be talking to people, a lot of people know that I'm there when they see my truck, so they kind of stop in and, whether they're a past customer or hopefully a future customer, we'll sit down and talk. And I like interaction. I like talking to people, so it's easy for me to do. And I'll have thoughts or talks, or I'll listen to something, or I'll be listening to a different podcast, and something will kind of pop in my head, and I'll go write it down. So like if you're on video today, you can see my piece of paper here that when I have just a random thought, I'll write it. So I brought that piece of paper with me today, kind of pulled a couple topics off of it, and we'll kind of see how this goes. We'll see if this, solo episode runs for the whole year. Maybe it'll suck after a couple months and me and Mallory will scrap it. We'll see what happens. So the purpose of doing the ones by my own for me is going to be just thoughts and experiences I've had through my life. I'm only 33, so I've got plenty of life to go, but things that have happened to me this far that I think will apply to more people. And maybe things that aren't talked about very much. So we may get, I might be super blunt with some of these. I may get kind of fiery with some of these. We'll kind of just see how it goes. I tend to talk a lot, so we'll see if we're trying to keep these, 15, 20 minutes, just something easy to digest and go from there. But what's really bothered me just in life, especially the last 2 years, is just how much people complain and just the negative energy that people put on things, whether it's social media, whether it's politics, whether it's not your president or it is your president or hashtag whatever, right? And for me, the last 7 years has really been me trying to work on myself and trying to be more productive, and not even more productive, but more efficient. Maybe that's a better way to put it. And I think that if you're putting yourself in those positions to be more productive, be more efficient, be more positive, on yourself and working on yourself and trying to level yourself up, it's inevitably going to put you in the position where, your business, your relationship, your marriage, your parenting, your spiritually, whatever it is, whatever being in a positive situation is going to turn into those things in your everyday life, if that makes sense. So I think that really it's as cliche as it is, working on yourself is going to inevitably put you in a better position down the road. So that's kind of what these are going to be, is just things that I've done to try and help myself, things that I've noticed, things that other people have taught me, maybe even some things that I've heard or people have told me and I haven't implemented them yet, or I haven't been, disciplined enough to do it. But just things I've seen in my life. So here we go. So a thing I've been focusing on a lot recently, really, I guess since Will was born, my son William, he's almost 2. He'll be 2 in 2 months. The thing I've been focusing on a lot is, I didn't know what it was called really. I mean, I knew it was called, but I hadn't put the term to it. I mean, I was trying to build something, whether that's a business or just a community around, me and my family, friends, business associates, customers, whatever it is. For me right now, it's businesses, trying to build businesses that I can pass down to, not even pass down to Will, but just have the opportunity that if he wants to do that, he could step into it. And maybe it's not even businesses. Maybe it's making the right connections with someone or the right relationships with someone that will help him in the future, right? It doesn't even have to be a money driven thing, but just something that will be a positive experience for William in the future. Or, you can even expound that out to, friends, kids, nieces, nephews, whatever, just being able to like network, but kind of a relationship, just build a big support group. So with him, it's kind of been, I guess the word that I'll put to it is generational wealth. That's kind of what I've been putting to it the last few months. It was kind of cool having Brandon in here last week. He talked about, or he mentioned in Europe, they have 3 generations of wealth. Being under 3 generations of wealth is called new money. And you have to be past 3 generations to be considered old money. And old money gets the respect because you've taught 3 generations how to be wealthy, and not only be wealthy, to obtain wealth and grow wealth, and not lose it. So that's kind of gives the prestige, right? So for me, it's, build it for me, teach William how to maintain or grow it, hopefully grow it. And then his kids also, as it cycles down, it just steps down generations. I think the reason that I have a lot of focus on it, I had my grandparents that have done well. When this airs on Saturday, I'll actually be celebrating their 80th birthday party. And I saw a little bit of wealth from them, but it wasn't really talked about a lot. I know they invested in the stock market and did different things. And hell, I mean, my grandpa retired like 4 times. I think he worked till he was 78, 79. So the work ethic was definitely there. But there's so many things that was not talked about, growing up, to be able to build that wealth and grow the wealth. And I'm still learning. I mean, I wouldn't consider myself wealthy, but I'm trying to get there. And honestly, the podcast has helped me meet people, talk about things, and has really grown my knowledge on, the ways to do it. Most of the people we've had on the podcast, I would say their net worth is more likely more than mine. So it's been a cool thing to be able to grow. The drive on this is kind of, whether it's William's kids or William's grandkids, to be able to look back and say, that's where the pivot point happened. That's where he broke the cycle. And it's not like we grew up poor, we grew up middle class, had our needs covered, had a lot of our wants covered. We were very active in sports. And I feel like for me to be able to take what my parents had provided me, for lack of better terms, it's my obligation to be able to take that and 10x it for William. And again, not that I grew up poor, but I want William to be able to look back and say, my dad, me, kind of pivoted right there. He broke the cycle. He broke the cycle of being middle class. I mean, I don't want my kid to live in middle class. And if you do, I guess more power to you, but you're probably listening to the wrong podcast. So I want my kid to live in, upper class. I want him to be around people that are upper class. I want him to see, what makes those people tick. I want him to see the work ethic. So yeah, I think when you look back, it's really our obligation, to my parents, to my grandparents, and so on, for everything that they've provided me to put me in the positive position I'm in. And then you can go the other way. Whatever drive you need to be able to pull out of it, whether it's, the future generations or past generations, it's easy to look at that. And either way you do it, I mean, it's your obligation to be able to better your position and the future positions after you, the future generations after you. So that's been a huge focus for me lately. And, I've talked about it before. I love the neighborhood I grew up in. I ended up buying my parents' house. Amanda and I lived in that house for like 8 years of our marriage. A lot of great people around. I still have a lot of good friends over there. There was one time I went over to my brother's house, and he lived in a, upper class neighborhood, I guess is the best way to put it. And as we're driving down the road, I started seeing a couple people I knew, and then I started seeing some people I didn't know. And I started realizing that, the old part of town that I grew up in, with as many great people that were there, it was middle class. And when Amanda and I had the opportunity to, buy a house, build a house, when we were kind of going through that struggle back and forth on what to do, we ended up buying a lot next to my brother. And a big thing for that for me was I wanted to put my, I keep on wanting to say my kids, but right now I think I'm only having one kid. So we already have William. So I keep stumbling over the kids and generations and things, but so I'm just going to talk that I have one kid because that's all I have currently. I'm pretty sure that's all that's going to be there, but time will tell. But I wanted to be able to put him into the position to be able to see people that were positive, that are wealthy. So again, obligation, right? This one's going to be on obligation and breaking the cycle. And I think it's our obligation as parents, and aunts and uncles and everything else, right? However way you got to relate to this, I think it's our obligation to have our kids see people that are successful, have our kids see people that are positive, to be able to teach them how to interact with people like that and build personalities to be successful and have great relationships. It's something that's helped me a lot in life. To this day, I'll have people stop by my store that I haven't seen for a while that have had a positive impact on me in my life. And, I look forward to that. I enjoy it. I had a guy stop in today that I hadn't seen for a minute, and we talked for 5 or 10 minutes, and, we gave a high five, and, I'm kind of realizing that I'm slowly building this, support group, if you will, around me, and not only around me, but around my family and friends and everyone. So the podcast has been a huge help with that. So anyway, I'm going to wrap this up. I think that's about all the time I wanted to spend on it. So yeah, so we're going to do solo ones once a month. It's going to kind of just be points that I've thought of or things that I've wanted to share on the podcast. If you like the solo ones, let me know. If you think I need to stop saying so much, you can also let me know. If you want to talk more shit than that, then you can go get your own podcast and stop watching mine. So some key thoughts to look back on, break the cycle. And if it's not break the cycle, continue the cycle, improve the cycle, however you got to play it. For me, I feel like it was, a break the cycle out of middle class. I think it's your obligation, not only future generations, but also past generations, things that they've done to set you up to where you are, and the things that you're going to do and things that you have to do to set up the future generations. And then on that future generation Same line of that, of putting, your kids, and, if you're old enough to have grandkids, in the situations that they're going to be able to grow from, and positive interactions, and just grow in a support group. So anyway, guys, thanks for being here. If you're still here, give us a like, give us a review, share, all of that stuff. This is episode 61 of the Derick Legg podcast, and we will see you next week.